You're listening to the Real Anime Podcast, and for those of you joining us here on our first ever YouTube session, thank you for being here. We really appreciate your support. I think some quick introductions, or rather reintroductions, would be a good way to kickstart our new format. So, the Real Anime Podcast, if this is your first time listening or watching, is a podcast that focuses on film and anime related topics, and every so often we'll have some guests who join us to lend their insights to our discussions. My name is Monish. I am a filmmaker, video essayist, and film critic. And alongside me for this podcast is my co host, Lewis, who is a photographer, anime critic, and filmmaker himself. And now that you know who we are, let's talk Akira. So, Akira is an anime ever since it came out in 1988. This anime, directed by Katsuhiro Otomo, is often credited with introducing anime to the West. It's often been remastered, and now I believe we have a 4K version of the anime that still stands the test of time. And roughly 36 years later now, it's widely considered to be the gold standard for anime as an art form. So, Luis, in your words, what makes Akira's visuals so amazing? What do you think is your favorite scene to watch from this whole beautiful anime?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Luis. What makes it amazing and what was my favorite scene to watch? Well, it's quite a tough question because Akira is a good film. But if you were to personally ask me from a visual point alone, I would say that within the first 5-10 minutes where you remember where Tetsuo steals Kaneda's bike. Sorry, no. The bit where Kaneda is riding on his bike, and then the gang, then there was like a bunch of bike gangs like chasing him, and then
Yeah, the beginning part.
yeah, the beginning part, and then you see like the backdrop of like Japan, like I guess Tokyo, you could say, in the back, and then
Neo Tokyo.
Neo Tokyo, and you see like like the light effects from the bike itself. It almost obviously you see it in like Tron Legacy, for example, itself, and just looking at it itself,
Yeah.
like the attention to details, like with the lighting, with the drawing of like like the buildings and stuff like that. It was just like a pleasure to watch, I would say, because like everyone wants to watch like everything in 4K, and which is nice, don't get me wrong, but sometimes we forget to appreciate the fact that sometimes you don't need to watch films in 4K to appreciate its visuals. Sometimes, like if you put in the effort, especially if everything's hand drawn and stuff like that, a film can do justice, I would say, really. And yeah, I would say that would be my favorite scene.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get what you mean with the bikes and all that because, like, especially when they drive off, they leave those light streaks
Yeah,
and stuff like
like
that.
the
It's
leading
just
lines,
that
you could
little bit
say.
of detail. Yeah, it's like a little detail in the anime that most people would maybe overlook, but now, of course, it's pretty legendary as an anime, so people are like super focused on it. But I think way back when Akira was just that kind of anime where the animation was just so top notch, and it has become the blueprint for many different animations, of course. And visually, I think the explosions and everything have been replicated in about every other big name anime you can think of: Dragon Ball Z, Naruto. So yeah, I'd say there's a huge legacy there.
Yeah, I agree with your point. And now I just wanted to ask you, right? This film is like, it has like a Neo Tokyo sort of setting to it, you could say. And when watching it, you have like these nice visuals, these fast bikes and everything, which makes it what it is today, if you're talking about it from a visual point of view, especially the Neo Tokyo element of it. And one thing I wanted to ask you is regarding like the Neo Tokyo element of it. What's the most interesting thing about Neo Tokyo? And another thing is, would you be able to survive in a world, in a city like that, let's just say, with all the explosions and
Uh,
everything going on?
okay. First off, I'll be dead by the time the thing starts. So um, yeah, but like that city is really hard city to live in, and Neo Tokyo was just such a blueprint for almost every little sci-fi film that came out afterward, like the cyberpunk genre, of course, which is a rabbit hole in and of itself that Akira has most definitely contributed a lot to. And I think Neo Tokyo is a city with so much character. It looks super vandalized and really fucked up, it has this really sort of a city on the brink of collapse, you know? And I think Neo Tokyo is a lesson for a lot of storytellers to understand how to not just make your characters compelling, but to also make the setting a character in and of itself. So I think that's why Akira's got such a brilliant atmosphere. And you're sort of like, when you start watching it, I feel so like captured in that atmosphere. Like I just want to kind of keep watching, keep going. And it's not one of those things where you just take out your phone and scroll while the movie plays, because I think after a while, if you give it an opportunity, it just grabs your attention and it just doesn't stop for sure. So yeah, Neo Tokyo is definitely one of my favorite set designs I've ever seen.
Yeah, I do agree with it in terms of like, like how to say, even though it's a 2 hour film, sometimes it don't feel like a 2 hour film really, because there's a lot of things you can pick up on, which is like important elements for the film itself, whether it's visually, narrative structure, or the characters in there. All these little elements that you pick up, if you like take you don't look at it for a second, sometimes you might miss out on something, which I'm sure you could agree with me on that.
Yeah, definitely. I
Yeah.
mean, like, now talking about how beautiful the animation and the visuals are, like, is there a particular, frame that you remember from Akira that
Yeah.
you for those of you who don't know, Lewis has a beautiful framed amount of posters in his
Ah,
room. I don't know if he's put them up yet,
I
but
haven't yet. I need to find a place to
no,
put
not
it up.
yet. Yeah. Yeah, so with that in mind, right, is there a particular frame from Akira that you like that you're like, oh, this will be a nice poster on my
Yeah, I
wall,
mean, if I were to check my cupboard, I'm sure. I mean, we're showing this on video. Maybe if I go to my cupboard, maybe I could get out the poster. I guess I don't know, but
No,
yeah,
but like
but
just anything you remember
if
from the film,
yeah,
can you like kind of
but
remember
I
something that
mean,
you might wanna?
I do have a Akira poster. Don't get me wrong, but maybe next time I get it out, but not now.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
however, if you were talking about it like based on the film itself, my favorite part would be, remember the scene where they were at the Olympic Stadium, and then it was like
Uh-huh.
towards the end, if I'm not mistaken, like maybe the last half an hour or something, there was a scene where Tetsuo was standing on top of like, I wouldn't say a bunch of bodies, but a bunch of debris, if I'm not mistaken. That bit, and
Yeah,
then
yeah, 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 yeah.
he was standing
Is it the one
on.
with the sky going blue and
Yeah,
stuff,
if I'm
or
yeah, that's the one. And then I found a second he had
cool, cool,
the
cool.
his cape at the back where he just bloody nicked it from the
Yeah,
bloody
yeah, yeah,
shop
yeah.
itself.
Yeah,
That
you straight up
was
stole it. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I mean that would probably be like the my favorite scene, because obviously, the
That'd be a great wallpaper also,
yeah,
actually, to be honest with you.
is a good wallpaper, because reason is because the symbolism behind of it, because like everyone thinks that Tetsuo is Akira, but in reality, he's not. He's just another guy. Some stuff happened to him, and then he got all these powers to him, and then they see him as like they idolize him as a god. Because if you remember the scene leading up to that, where they was trying to go to the Olympic Stadium, and there was at the bridge, remember, where the army was trying to
Right,
face
right.
off against Tetsuo, and then you have like these bunch of like worshippers, like these, I don't know what religion they are, but these worshippers and stuff like that, they're seeing like Tetsuo, even though they thought it was Akira maybe, as a god. So obviously when
Right.
that scene came up of him just like standing on top of that debris, I'm just like, wow, he is really like the, how to say, the god really. And the best thing
Like he
is, yeah,
looks the part, like
yeah.
yeah, he really looks the
And
part.
not gonna lie, when the first, and reason why it's my favorite also, because obviously at first when I watched Akira, I thought that was Akira, because at first I didn't understand the story itself. But when I saw that, I was just like, yeah, this is really your true the face of the film, and the reason why the film is so good, because of him itself, I would say. But yeah, that personally would
Mm,
be my favorite poster, I would say. Regarding that also, like regarding the film itself also, obviously you yourself are a filmmaker too, and plus we've done films in the past too.
yeah,
Like,
we've done films before,
yeah,
yeah.
obviously as a filmmaker, if you wanted to make Akira into a film itself, whether it's anime, whether it's a real life film, that's up to you really. Would you keep it the same, keep all the elements of it the same, or would you change some elements of it? And how would you make it into a Mohnish film?
Well, I mean, first things first, I would definitely not go down the anime reboot route because I think as an anime itself, Akira is perfect. So it will definitely be a live action, but even with live action, there's going to be some liberties I'll have to take because I can't make an actor look exactly like the character. I'd like there to be some realism in there. And Akira is all about reflecting the extremes of our world. So I think that's all like going to be really important. Calibrating the actors' performances to have a raw sensibility as opposed to a more realistic feel in that sense would be important to reflect Akira. And then comes the most challenging part, which would be to recreate Neo Tokyo, which is just going to be mind blowing because, one, as a filmmaker, I would love to be a part of the team just working on that. In fact, just being a fly on the wall, just kind of seeing the whole thing come together would be such a experience. I think also like when you look at how the cyberpunk genre looks in film in live action and what Akira looks like as an anime, there's going to be a lot of inspiration drawn from Blade Runner, for example, both the first film and the second film. You've got all those kinds of famous cyberpunk films, and Akira can be up there with the best of them. But I know we're talking about rebooting Akira, and I know Taika Waititi, who directed Thor: Love and Thunder and Thor Ragnarok, was attached to sort of direct Akira. I think that's gone pretty silent as of yet, and honestly, I'm slightly grateful in a sense because I don't think he's a bad director. I just think that he might see Akira and make it comedic. I hope that's not the case though. But to really make Akira my own, I would definitely try and deliver Akira as much justice as I can because it's not so much the property of one person. I think it's more of an experience that you need to deliver from start to finish, you know? And of course, the technical things like the explosions, the fantasticality, and maybe practicality of the CG and or perhaps VFX. Kind of scared to do it practically now, but Oppenheimer exists, so that kind of sets the bar pretty high. So yeah, seeing as those explosions especially have become inspirations for so many animes, and those explosions really show the power of disasters. I was gonna ask you, Lewis, think Akira. Well, what do you think Akira is about? Do you think it's about big disasters? Is it a movie that is about survival or destruction? Maybe a bit of both.
The way I see it is basically you're living in a world where I feel that in the film itself, there are a lot of figures in that world, in the city itself, who are seen as corrupted, in my opinion. So obviously, with Tetsuo, he is basically like, ever since, within the first 5 minutes of the film, if you remember, he was on the bike and then he hit that, I forgot what's the fella's name, but the small boy, I remember. And then
Oh,
he possessed all of like these demonic powers, you could say. I remember specifically whether is this film regarding big disasters. You could say that because there's a lot of explosions, or survival. You could say that too because you're living in literally a world where everything's exploding. But honestly speaking, the way I see it is, if you remember that person, the what's his name, Colonel, I forgot his name, but the Colonel, remember, who's the head of the army, I
yeah,
remember. And if you remember that scene, remember the circle table scene, like, like at the UN conference, like they had like a round table meeting, and some of
yeah.
them were accusing the colonel of using his own powers to get whatever he wants. And also there was like, remember a scene where I remember Tetsuo went out I think the mental asylum or the hospital itself, and then they was trying to arrest him and stuff like that. But then again, he found a way to, like, not make it happen. So honestly speaking, the way I see it is basically it's neither a film which is about disasters or survival or destruction. Yeah, you do have them elements in there, but the way I see it is the hidden messages. I would say when I watch Akira for the third, maybe fourth time, I would see that it's is the way that the city is based on society itself, and how people who have the advantages can, do like all these sort of experiments, like how they do it on what's his name, Tetsuo, to gain, like something in they really want, I guess, because obviously, there were a few scenes where he was inside the, I wouldn't say the hospital, but maybe the scientist room itself. They were like experimenting on him. Then after that, it got all out of control, and it could be a way where the colonel was trying to do something in his own favor to get whatever he wants, in a way. And that's the way I see it, because obviously, not gonna lie, when I watched Akira at first, it was a bit confusing at first. Not gonna, I had to watch it the second time and the third time. Then obviously when I watched it the third time, I wrote down some significant moments to key point, like some of the what happened in Akira itself. Then also I'm just checking, written on my notes here, like as the movie went on, I thought at first, maybe if I was watching it the first time, I thought at first I was just it's just another film about like maybe gangs like against a biker gang, and then some explosion stuff will happen. But then eventually, when you go more into the film itself, you see that, oh, this Tetsuo guy, he's like never seen before, something he possesses. And then you can see like the character arc of like just like a normal boy, because if I remember correctly in the film itself, sorry, I do remember, he was seen as a guy who was not so powerful. Everyone just like, maybe you could say, bullied him, I would say, really. I don't know.
Yeah.
But then you could see like the character arc from Tetsuo, from being from down here, then he just went boom, right up there, and becoming this strong beast where the whole city is worshipping as a god. You have two sides. One is worshipping him as a god. One is trying to take him down, really. So honestly speaking, to answer your question, does it have elements of disasters, survival, or destruction? It does, for sure. But then again, in my opinion, if you look at the bigger picture, it could be the way the society was built, and how people use their own. They always think of, and the people who are part of the city itself, maybe the government side or whatnot, they are seen as like, they're doing things for their own benefit, but then they don't think about the others. That's the way I would interpret it, the film itself. And I guess this leads me to another question, which I just wanted to ask you, because
Mm.
obviously Akira is not like your typical Hollywood film or typical anime film where there's like a
No.
where there's like a happily ever ending after. Like, for example, if you take a film like, I know, two different films, like Your Name, for example, obviously you have for example, you have what's her name, Mitsuha and Taki, like me.
I was just imagining Tetsuo doing some like dance to the Kimi no Nawa soundtrack,
Yeah,
like,
so they have like,
oh,
you have a clear ending where like they obviously met up when they're adults, even though they had dreams, blah 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 blah. But
right.
Akira is not that sort of close ending where you get the solution. It's really on what you think, which makes Akira such a good film. And even like famous directors in Hollywood, I can't remember exactly who, they like Akira for its work. So obviously, I wanted to ask you,
Mm.
regarding the Akira ending. Warning: if you've not seen it, please go check it out and then come back to this. But it's up to you. Do you think it's mind blowing, confusing, or a bit of both, or what do you think, or is it something else? Please take it away,
I think
Sifu.
I I think just on the subject of Akira's ending, and I think Akira as a film in general, it's like you watch it, you totally think you understand it, and then you realize you understood nothing at all when you
I
watched it the
agree.
second time. And then you watch it a third time, you think you finally got it. Now you're so confident, you watch it a fourth time, realize you know nothing again. And it's that kind of evolving film, and that always has so many different ways of interpretation and interpreting how the story ends. Like, okay, you can look at Tetsuo, right? Tetsuo is our central character. You can say when he reaches that point, that critical point when the explosions are happening at the end, he's creating a quote unquote new universe. And that's like the scientific thing, like, he's being absorbed into a singularity and all that stuff. But I think that, to me, when I interpret it, I look at how ambiguous it is. You cannot say for sure what happened. You cannot say this happened or that happened, because different moments, both those things are happening, So it's kind of unclear what happens to Tetsuo. Now, some people may disagree because obviously they have their own theories, but it's a hopeful sign, in my opinion, of how rebirth, renewal, and how it looks like explosion, but really it just might be the birth of something new. And I think it's a really cool symbolic sign because all the explosions in Akira look kind of similar to the ones that you see towards the end, but they mean something totally different, you know? So I think that's something super important when I see the ending. And I feel like, oh, maybe that's what it is. I could be totally wrong, but it's just all about interpreting the ending in general. It's a very existential ending, but for those of you listening and watching, do comment your thoughts on the ending of Akira because I'm very curious personally to know what y'all think. Yeah, Luis, do you have anything to say about the ending of Akira? Like honestly, like I don't know if you're with me on this, but when you watch the ending, doesn't your mind just go blank?
Yeah, I mean, just spoilers alert, but like when I watched it, you see like Tetsuya like in this big baby form thing, like eating all the people, and I thought they were all dead. They were all dead. Then it's like it shifts back to the past where he was a kid doing experiments. So it's like all along, it is true. Some people were doing experiments on these babies to like see like who can be the bloody next Godzilla or something like that. But like, to be honest with you, the ending, do I understand it? Still to this day, I'll be honest with you. I think that maybe like after he discovered his power, he go live happily ever after, then reminisce about the past. Like I still, to be honest with you, I still don't get the ending. I get it, it's a bit, but not a bit. But I've already died. Good news is I really understand 80% of the film, which I'll take. But I must watch the ending again to be able to understand that 20%. So, like they say, like how Fort Minor said, this is 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentration power of will, 5% pleasure, 50% pain, and 100% reason to remember how Akira ended. So there you go. That's how I felt.
I didn't realize our first episode was going to include poetry, but okay lah. Y'all get extra value lah. Very much. So this is our episode on Akira. Hope you guys did enjoy that. If you're listening on Spotify, thank you for listening. And if you're watching us on YouTube, thank you very much. We do appreciate your support.
Yes.
Do like and subscribe. And we will see you in the next one.